So what is a hosted service? How does this differ from the traditional IT delivery model? First of all, it's worth talking about terminology. I mentioned at the outset that there's lots of different ways of describing this sort of service. So going back a number of years, there was a popular term called ASP, Application Service Providers. We've also got hosting, which is what we're talking about today. We've then got SaaS, Software as a Service, and then Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS. And it's really IaaS that we're talking about today. So in effect, it's taking those applications that you've got sat on local servers, moving them up into the hosted environment, into a fully managed environment, and then delivering it back to you as a service as you consume it. Also popular terms, utility computing, so made popular with sort of equivalent to gas and electricity, where you pay for what you use. And then of course the buzzword of the day, cloud computing. I'm sure that most of you would have heard of Apple's iCloud cloud computing offering that was launched recently. IBM have launched their cloud services. And there are some subtle differences in these different types of service models, but in effect what it allows you to do is to take those applications that typically you've got stored locally and move them up, if you like, into the cloud so you can access them over the internet. We do offer a fully managed service within our hosted offerings, so we look after the hardware, the software, the infrastructure, all of the security around your data, which I know is obviously very important to people, and of course we support it as well. In terms of how you get access to your applications, it's delivered via the internet. In some services, it's via a browser. In our case, we serve up the applications via a thin client. And I guess most of you know about terminal services. And so as well as storing your applications in the host environment, we actually serve up people's desktops from that data center as well. So when people go into it, they click on the icon, they log in, and it launches a full Windows 7 desktop, and on there is your Exchequer application, your other third-party applications, and you get access to all your documents and data as well. I guess one of the key things, I've talked about capital expenditure. In terms of the way you pay for this service, it is by subscription, and it's on a per-user, per-month basis, so it's really easy to budget for, and it's based on the software that you actually use within that hosted environment. So the hosted delivery model then looks a bit like this. So all of your applications have moved up into the data center. That's handling all your antivirus, all your anti-spam. It's got all your email there if you choose to. It's got all the storage for your documents and your data. And of course, most importantly, it's got your software applications there too. And then everybody who gains access to that hosted service does it in exactly the same way. It no longer matters whether you're sat in head office or remote office or home worker. You all access the data center in the same way, and you all get the same user experience. Everyone gets served up the same view of their applications and data. So what does Iris Hosted Solutions provide then? Because there's lots of hosted services available in the marketplace, and it's worth looking at what our service provides. First of all, we use what's called a Tier 3 data center. When you're talking about data centers, there's actually 4 different tiers. So 1 is the lowest and 4 is the highest. There are only a small number of Tier 4 data centres in the world, and they tend to be used by people like the Ministry of Defence and other government agencies. And probably the best way to put this into context is that a Tier 3 data centre guarantees 99.99% availability, so pretty impressive statistics. It gives you access to up-to-date technologies, so we use the latest storage area networks, the latest server technology, and all of that, of course, is included in that monthly base fee, and as new technologies become available, we implement them into the data centre and they're made available to you automatically. Also access to the latest software releases, so I mentioned the example of Office 2007 to 2010. So within the service itself, if you choose to move Office into the hosted environments, then again you get access to the latest versions of those applications at no additional charge. So again, in terms of budgeting, it's just you look at your monthly charge over the fixed period, and when Microsoft bring out Office 2012, then you get access to that version of Office as part of that monthly based fee at no additional charge. Also within the service, obviously Exchequer, incredibly important to people here today. At the moment we send out regular software releases, as you know, and you either install those yourself, or I know you can come to us with some professional services to get those installed, but it's your responsibility to do so. In the hosted environment and included within the service, we actually upgrade Exchequer for you. So when version 6.9 or 6.10 comes out, we will obviously announce that. You don't have to move, but if you choose to, you can contact us, then we'll arrange a convenient time to upgrade your copy of Exchequer as well in that hosted environment. It is a fully managed service, so lots of hosting providers will sell you space, so they'll carve out some space for you in their data centre, and then they hand it back to you to go and install your applications and effectively manage much of it yourself. In terms of what we do, we actually look after the whole sort of experience, so if you choose to go hosted with us, then we will manage that installation of all your applications and also the ongoing support as well. It's high availability, so I mentioned 99.99% availability within the data centre. The way that we achieve that is that all of our data centre technology is dual powered, so if you lose power on one connection, the other one automatically kicks in. In terms of the servers, if you lose a server, so if you lost a server today, you've actually got to go out and get a replacement server. But in the data centre, if one server goes, another server automatically kicks in, so that you actually experience little to no downtime, which is how we achieve that 99.99%. It is obviously from that level of availability an incredibly reliable service, and it's also high performance as well. So if some of you have got aging servers perhaps, which are 3 or 4 years old, have kind of reached end of life and you're getting into that cycle of looking at a replacement, it could actually benefit you in terms of performance in moving into the hosted environment as well, because you get access to all these latest technologies, making sure that things run incredibly quickly for you. Of course, it's great to have that high level of availability within the data centre, but of course if your communications links into the data centre aren't sufficient, then we've got a problem. If you choose to go hosted with Iris, then as when we initially talk to you, what we do first of all is we arrange an audit day. So we'll come out to your organisation, we'll look at your existing infrastructure, we'll look at the number of users that you've got, we look at the sort of printers that you need access to within the data centre, we look at any scanning devices, and as part of that we'll also look at your communications. So obviously it's really important to us if we're moving you into hosting, now obviously you're going to get the very best connection into that data centre. So if your existing communications are sufficient, we'll let you know that, that's fine. If they're not, then we can advise you on what's required. And equally, if you choose to, we can also provision communications for you as well, as part of the initial take-on. Security is going to be really important to people. I know that often people think that if you move in data off your local location, that there's a concern then that the data is not sort of within your grasp and within your reach. But within the service we provide an awful lot of security around the network and around the data security as well. And if you'd like to talk to me more about that later, then I'm more than happy to do so. Also high levels of physical security. I don't know how many people have been to a data centre, but if you go there you'll find that they're sort of sunk in the ground, they're all gated, they're surrounded by bollards and man traps, and actually getting into the data centre itself is only accessible for authorised personnel. So what we actually find is that when our data sits in one of these data centres, it's actually probably more secure than it would be in our offices as it stands today. We also look after backups. So I mentioned backups has been one of the challenges of traditional IT, but as part of this service you get fully managed backups. Every 24-hour period we take full backups of your system. That backup's pulled off to tape, it's taken away to another data centre where it's secured in a fireproof safe. So again, your data is incredibly secure. You know that everything's been backed up, and you know that if you do need to restore or take your data somewhere else, then that's absolutely possible. We also provide full antivirus protection, spyware, anti-phishing. We use message labs, and again as part of the service we make sure that you've got the latest updates and the latest levels of software on that too. Also security patching and updates, so we all know that Microsoft keeps sending new security patches along to us, and again we have to make sure that we're fully patched up on those. So again as part of the service we make sure that you've got the latest Microsoft patches automatically installed on those applications. So in terms of software, what can we actually host? Well, of course, naturally we can host Iris Exchequer. It won't surprise you for me to say that we are the only hosting services provider who are certified to run Exchequer in a host environment. If you've got other Iris applications, some of you may have Iris Payroll or some of our PSA products, and again you can move those into the hosted data center too. We can also host all of the Microsoft applications, so if you choose to move Office into the hosted environment, then you can have full Microsoft Office, so Word, Excel, PowerPoint, also SharePoint, Microsoft Exchange, and you can move all of that into hosted environments. I've talked about security, but clearly also you probably need to be able to host other third-party applications too. Maybe BlackBerry, maybe some other HR system. But of course, if you're moving into the hosted environments, you can't take some of it necessarily. You may need to take other applications too, which are needed to run your business. So again, we'll work with you to move those third-party applications up into the hosted data center.